All right. So hi everyone. Today is a special video because it's a recap of all the figure that I had shared already into one. It's an overview of everything. I'm going to share it in this overall form and I'm going to review it afterward from all the other figure that I've shared before so you can understand exactly where I'm coming from. So this is our true self. When we're born without conditioning, nothing that is taught from anyone, no information. We still have a virgin brain, and this is where we're at. This is different than a bigger orange, so it's a virgin soul. And then those little white, this little black circle are conditioning, and it creates layers of misinformation that are deforming our understanding about reality. Um, and then this is my timeline. So for me, it was until I was 17. And I remember clearly at 17 years old that it was the first time that although I had feeling that something was off with society, that I didn't fit in or that it wasn't built for us, that it was the first time that I did an action that started to that made me swim against mainstream. And so this experience is when I started working when I was actually at 13. My parents didn't force me. I grew up in Canada and it was actually illegal, but my parents were too poor to buy me brand, clothing that I self-conditioned myself from school, to want, and my parents couldn't afford it because they were too expensive. So I begged my dad to ask his boss if I could work with him for whatever money they could pay me. And I started in the summer only. I would work the whole summer, I think, after the first grade of high school. So I was about 13. And, it was probably the hardest I worked until I ended up working in construction like 10 plus years later, 12 years later. And, I was getting paid $50 Canadian for 3 days per week of 12 hours. So 36-hour a week for $50. So that's like, I think $1.30 something an hour. And at the time I was too young to know the value of money. And my dad would keep all the money for me. And at the end of the summer, at the end of 1 week, I received my own $450 Canadian. And, why did I want it to work is because I already finished first grade of high school and I could just wear what my parents would buy me. And at the time, I was not really fashionable and there was a huge difference from being in the elementary school where nobody cared about what you wear. And then I was just wearing joggings or like sport team in my shirts and then in the high school, within like a month or two, I could feel the pressure. Like people, like even friends that I knew from elementary school, was like, they tell me like, oh, you're still wearing joggings. And I even pay attention to what other people were wearing. And it's like, no, you gotta wear jeans, you gotta wear whatever. And then it's like, I thought they were uncomfortable. So I think the first thing I bought was like cargo pants and stuff, but I was really brainwashed into, being envying about brands. So like, I think at the time was Guess, Tommy Hilfiger, all this kind of like famous brand. And I didn't know about them until people made me self-conscious that those were the brand that was in fashion. And also about music. And I learned that the famous band at the time, it was Metallica. It was like in 1992 and Metallica was a big hit. I didn't even like metal music, but this is what all my friends at school was listening. So therefore I had to fit in. I had to listen to that kind of music. So I had nothing that was off branding when I was younger. And so when, in the summer between high school 1 and high school 2, I begged my dad if I could work with him, managed to work with him. And then at the end of the summer, he gave me my $450, went to the first shop, like it's a Harley Davidson shop, where I knew they sold Harley Davidson Metallica t-shirt, and I bought 3 of them, brand new t-shirt. Were probably one of the first one when I arrived on first day in high school too. And then I saw some of the cool kid and mostly the cool girl that were there. And then, they told me, like, really innocent, they're like, oh, you're still listening to Metallica. I was like, and I could feel that I should say no. And then I say, no, I didn't know what to wear, blah, blah, blah. And then, they just told me, and I just asked at an assembly, it's like, oh, what you guys are listening right now? And they all say, yeah, Tupac Shakur. So they switch within the summertime, which I didn't see any of them because I was working all the time, from heavy metal music to gangster hip hop. And that same day, I returned home and gave my 3 t-shirts I just bought for over $100 in total to my younger sister. And so I just wear 1 t-shirt one time, and the tail t-shirt, never wear them. And I decided then I wanted to drop out from following fashion, but I still wanted to be stylish. So I still bought stuff that were cool, but never focused really on brand too much. And then I'm 17 years old, so it's already been 3 years plus that I was working and making my own money, and I was able to like afford buying Christmas present and Christmas birthday to friends and family that care. And at 17 years old, I had money. I just turned 17, and I remember I had, I don't know, maybe $100, and then a list of everyone that I thought I would want to buy something for Christmas. And so it's the beginning of December, maybe mid-December, I'm not sure. I'm entering the biggest mall in my city, in Montreal, and realize something that was the same but felt different, meaning that like enter the mall and people were racing left and right everywhere. Like when you enter, everything is open, and it's 7 or 8 floor, and then you can see hundreds of stores, and everybody was running everywhere, filled with shopping cart, with shopping bag, and something in me changed because I've seen this scene many times when people were running everywhere in the shopping mall, but something was different in me because I just froze for 2 hours. I was not able to move. I was not able to move because I had a click. Seeing everyone running mindlessly, shopping like it was meant to be doing, and somehow I felt repulsed. Because I realized at 17 years old, it was just the beginning of my, not even adult life, but in my consumerist life. And I could see I was at the baby stage of what I was observing. And I just knew then that I would only have more friends in the future, eventually have more money, but it already brought me a certain level of stress and anxiety because as much as I enjoy giving and receiving, I felt that I didn't want to buy something generic all the time, so I wanted to buy something that was new, something original, something useful. And it's like I knew that the challenge was getting more difficult, even if I only experienced that for 3 years. And so after 2 hours of being frozen in time and in space, I just decided to drop out, and I turned around, bought nothing, came back home, called all my friends, telling them once by one to never buy me forever any present or a Christmas gift, because I won't buy them any. And I said that to my family as well. And I understood for the first time, at first, that they thought I was cheap. But I knew it was something different, but I couldn't articulate that feeling back then. And so this is where I feel that from there I started actively acting that inner feeling and actively distancing myself from what has been taught to me throughout all my life, and peeling off layers from creating action in my life that are against what I thought, what the people in my society thought would be, that had try to brainwash me into a certain way, or try to educate me a certain way. So it's the removal of social conditioning or mainstream conditioning. And then at 33 years old, that's when I eventually went to the mountain, meditated, went up there, and then something happened after a couple of days of meditation, and I call it experience of consciousness. And I felt that it was, like I expressed it in the previous video, all my knowledge collapsed. So at first it was a pyramid. I'll go back to like explain. So sorry for this. So the conditioning is it's this. So like you start to sell the little circle at the beginning, and then you add more. I am my family, my profession, my knowledge. You keep adding it, adding it, and adding it. And then at 17 years old, I stopped going from mainstream, and I start going against mainstream. That's why the black circle are adding and the black circle are disappearing when you go this way. And so for here, it's like me being, I don't know where I was, but I was somewhere here, and then you're swimming up against mainstream. And at 33 years old, I'm here at the ridge. And so this is adding circle or removing, and conditioning deform a perception of reality. And then this is also when you're trying to go against mainstream. And then this is the lower drawing. So this is my first version of what I feel happened when I turned 33 in the experience of consciousness. And this is the second way that it's an expansion. So I re-express it right here. So this is adding of conditioning, a removal of conditioning, experience. There's something that cracked. And at first I thought this is what happened, that my ego was, I still had an ego, but it's detached. But then I realized that instead it just, ego become more subtle, but my true self is feeding from my ego. And then I have another layer of ego that is blinding me in some level, but it's not mainstream conditioning anymore. It's like, it could be spiritual conditioning, it could be something else, and it doesn't blind you as much, but still blind you from the truth. And then when you shift again, then your true self is expanding. So those layers of conditioning are not necessarily like pollution or useless or harmful. They're the nourishment of a true self for us to grow consciousness. Consciousness expands because we are losing yourself in our mind. So at first I thought it was something to fight against, and I realized that it's necessary for us to feed from and create expansion. And yeah, so freedom, a baby is not born free. You need this process to. So here, actually, it's not the same as this one, even if in the picture it looked the same. It's more something like that happened. And then there's so here it should be like, when you remove enough conditioning, then when there's too much conditioning, then it's poison. When there's just a little bit, then you can actually expand your perspective. So I think it would be like, we'll receive information, good and bad, and at the beginning you cannot know which one is good and which one is bad. So there's a process where we remove from our life the bad conditioning, and then we can feed yourself from the good conditioning, if it makes sense. So I'm going with this, and yeah, so this is a whole journey. Now I'm 46 years old, and where I'm at, I feel still that I've made a relapse that I didn't thought would be possible for me to relapse. Like, I think when I lose my balance, it happened. I built 2 houses now for myself. Like I built the first one, and then it became too popular and too noisy, so I moved to another place. And when I work, I feel there's a worse version of myself. This is what I used to do before. The last time I worked in construction before that, like for somebody else, not building my own house, was until the last day of my 32nd birthday. At 33, I finished working on the last day on the 32nd birthday, and 33 is the day I started meditating. And a few days later, miraculously, something special, powerful to me happened. And although I think I am good with what I do with construction, it puts me into an identity or a character that is difficult for me to be it's just like you know, when people like you, it feels easier. When people don't like you, I'm good. Like the customer like me, my boss like me, but my coworker, many times I hire friends, they see me as their boss, even if they used to be my friend. And I think I get that because of my trauma, my conditioning from my youth. Like my parents were really strict, so I received a lot of pressure. I was able to handle the pressure, perform well under pressure, and naturally end up putting a lot of pressure with the people in my life, including my partner, including my co-workers, my employee. And if they perform well, just like my parents, then they are rewarded with whatever I can provide them. But if they don't perform well, or if they're unproductive, then there's a niche to correct them, to tell them how they could do better. And it's been a difficult journey for me to accept that there's other truth or other way of doing, and to not put pressure on people who are not open for it. And mostly when it's connection that I care, like in relationship, it's important to learn how to speak your boundaries, but at the same time to be patient with repetition without putting pressure. And because the connection is more important than being right, and it's to be able to differentiate between what they can change in the moment, and when putting too much pressure creates stress or creates a disconnection or create anxiety for them to be around us. Yeah, so this has been a beautiful journey. I don't know what's ahead of me. I feel that somehow, even if I'm struggling, those videos are part of the next section of my journey. I feel that it's time for me to not just stay in my own little bubble, but to somehow explore. It's to share, and at the same time keep expanding. I don't know where is this expansion, and I will have potentially new layer of ego, identifying myself, I don't know, as a teacher or whatever, and maybe get lost. But I feel it's the process of growth if it's aligned, if I stay authentic and integrity with myself. I feel that is just going to be part of the journey, part of my journey, and to keep expanding, growing, and sharing consciousness, or just being consciousness and consciousness share itself. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this overall video, this overall overview. And if you have questions, comments, or if you didn't agree with it, feel free to share in the comments. If you did watch a couple of my videos already, which has been a character of mine, I always subscribe after I watch 3. So did you watch 3 of them? And if yes, please subscribe just to help me share more and spread the word to the world. See you in the next one.